A booklet containing lecturers' notes has been issued by the BBC in conjunction with the TEC. It can be obtained by sending a large stamped addressed envelope with 16.5 postage to this address: TEC, Central House, Upper Woburn Place, London WC1 HOHH. Well, now the time is almost 20 minutes to 10, and I'm afraid we're just a couple of minutes overrunning at the moment because of the breakdown in that last film. But the next programme, Science Workshop, begins in 1 minute.
Now, in the program last week, we saw how paper can be used in different ways. Now, do you remember the cockatoo that Bruce Angrave made? And Malcolm used the scanning electron microscope to show us those marvelously clear pictures of the fibers in paper. And we saw how short cotton fibers can be made into paper. Most paper in the world is made from trees, from wood fibers. Lillian's been finding out.
This huge raft of tree trunks is being towed down a Canadian river from the forest to the pulp mill. Here the logs are fed into a machine that strips all the bark off. Next, the logs are chopped into tiny pieces called chips. Then the wood chips are sent up a pipe into the top of this tower, where they're stewed with chemicals. This cooking breaks down the wood into a pulp full of fibres. The pulp is washed, and with the dirt removed, the mat of wood fibres is lifted out of the water onto a huge drum. These are the wood fibres that paper is made from, and I went to a factory in Kent to see how they did it.
Just like in the handmade paper we saw last week, here in the factory they start out with the same porridge-like pulp of beaten wood fibres and water. And that's where the difference between handmade paper and factory paper begins. Now, depending on the sort of paper they want out at the end of the machine, they can add different things to the pulp mixture.
There's china clay and potato starch, and this is the chalk that will fill the spaces between the wood fibres in the finished paper. And if they want coloured paper, this is where they add the dye. This is a very deep red dye, but mixed in with all the white pulp, it will give a light pink colour to the paper. Here a lot more water is added to the pulp to produce the milky liquid needed to make the paper. And this is the beginning of the huge paper-making machine. Here the milky liquid is carried at great speed on top of a nylon mesh. Water is drained and sucked out below the moving mesh, and the mat of fibres is left on top, no longer so wet and shiny. But the fibre sheet still has a lot of water in it, so here it's picked up by a sheet of felt and taken round giant metal rollers. Each roller is hotter than the one before it, so as the fibre sheet moves through the rollers at about 500 metres a minute, it's getting drier and drier.
And this is the place where the paper can be seen for the first time. There it is, look, right above my head.
By now it's nearly dry, but there are still more ways that the kind of paper being made can be changed. This is where the surface of the sheet can be coated with china clay or other chemicals to make it smooth. And for a really shiny finish, these metal rollers spin round and polish the paper. Nearly 7 tons of paper are spooled onto each reel, but before it's sent out, a sample is torn off to be checked and tested. The first test is to measure the thickness of 4 layers of paper. It should be just over 200 on the dial, and it is. The thickness is measured at intervals along the sample strip. If the thickness of 4 layers is over 200, then 1 layer is just over 50, and that's what's written on the record sheet. For the next test, an exact sample of paper has to be specially cut to make sure the test is fair. The cut sample is put between the prongs of this stiffness tester. The testing device slowly turns. The stiffness of this paper should give a reading of nearly 35 on the scale. It does. So the paper has the correct stiffness. To test the strength of the paper, a sample strip is pulled with increasing force until it snaps. It took a force of around 47.5 newtons to break the sample. For the next test, another specially prepared sample is used. .35 on the scale in the tearing test is as it should be. The tests make sure that all the things that have been added produce the paper they set out to make.
So, in a modern paper mill, they can change what they put in and so control the sort of paper that comes out at the end.
Blotting paper soaks up ink because it's all fibres and no fillers. And if we look at a scanning electron microscope picture, there are lots of spaces between the fibres that the ink can get into. Writing paper has fillers in the spaces, so the ink can mark the surface but doesn't soak right in. And here you can see the lumps of fillers between the fibres. And shiny art paper has fillers and a surface coating. The ink doesn't even mark the surface. Here a piece of surface coating has broken away and you can see the fibres underneath.
But paper isn't only used for writing and printing on.
There's special grease-proof paper for fatty foods. There's waterproof paper that doesn't let the water through. And there's filter paper that does.
There's cardboard. Now, this piece is made up of 3 layers. 2 layers of rough grey paper and a 3rd layer which takes the printing. Here's another piece of cardboard with 3 pieces stuck together. But have a closer look at this one. Have a look at the middle layer. It's been given a wiggle. It's corrugated. And that middle layer, those corrugations, help to strengthen the cardboard to make it stiff. And it's very useful for packaging and protecting things. Some things are more difficult to package and protect than others. Now, supposing you bought an 18-piece tea set. Now, I wouldn't want to get it home in 180 pieces. Our studio guest today is Dave Taylor. He's a cardboard box designer. Hello, Dave.
Hello, David.
Now, this is the box. Doesn't look much like a box yet.
No, but if I fold it and glue it along that join, and if I see that we've got 4 sides, so
Taking
I
shape.
fold the box, fold these flaps in.
What's this going to become?
Well, this will be the base, but also the flaps that are going inside will also form a set of divisions.
I see, very clever.
Okay, so if you could pass me the cups. I now fold these flaps down, and you can see that they are beginning to form the layer card.
That's right, a platform completely covering the cups. Now you want the plates?
Plates.
You make sure that they face out, that, you know, the unpacked
Yeah.
one, don't you? So you can get it to the window.
I fold these flaps in, and now here we form our little carry handle. That little locking tab.
Very
That's complete.
clever. Well, thank you, Dave. Now I can get my crockery home safely.
I hope so.
But once the crockery is safely in the cupboard, once the fruit juice has been drunk and the cereal's been eaten, then the packaging gets thrown away. Half the contents of our dustbins is waste paper, but it could be used again. Now, these are old newspapers. But there's nothing wrong with the fibers that they're made from. They could be used again. Lillian's been finding out.
In the yard of this paper mill is a huge pile of old newspapers made from wood fibres that first came from forest trees. Old newspapers are brought here from all over England to be made into new paper again. In this vat, the old paper is mixed with water and stirred to break it down into a pulp of fibres again. But there's a lot in old newspapers that has to be removed. Ink, for example. The ink is bubbled to the surface of the pulpy liquid and skimmed off by rotating paddles. When all the rubbish has been removed, here's the clean white pulp ready to be made into paper. And here is the huge paper-making machine. In the same time that it will take us to get to the other end of this machine, the wet paper pulp will have travelled along the moving mesh, be picked up by drying felt, will be dried by heated metal rollers in this covered section, and be turned into new paper. This machine is over 200 metres long, and it never stops. It it's producing an endless sheet of paper at the rate of nearly 1,000 kilometres every day. Seven tons of new paper made from yesterday's newspapers. Now it's off to Fleet Street to have tomorrow's news printed on it.
So that's one way to use old newspapers. Let's see what Malcolm has found out.
Well, David, I'm at Royston in Hertfordshire at the home of Anthony Hopkinson, who's found another important use for waste paper. Using old newspaper, Anthony has designed a machine for making a kind of thick board. Hello, Anthony.
Hello, Malcolm.
Now, what's the first stage of your process? He's found that 10 daily newspapers and 24 buckets of water give the right mixture. In this old washing machine, the newspapers are broken down into their fibres. A measured amount of the paper pulp is poured onto a mesh, and the water drains away. Anthony doesn't bother getting the ink out of his pulp because he doesn't mind grey-coloured sheets. If he wants to make a thicker board, Anthony can make a laminated sheet by putting more than one layer together.
Well, here's a 3-ply sheet, and if I wanted to make it any thicker, I could make it up into even 12-ply, like this piece here. And that's where you get the strength. Feel how strong that is.
Makes it very rigid. So we just wait for this to dry, do we?
Well, we can bend it while it's still wet into all sorts of exciting shapes. And here's a board specially designed to help make us a corrugated sheet. We'll cover this with cloth just to stop it sticking, and then take a new sheet, another piece of cloth to stop it sticking, and then I'll just press it into the corrugations and lay this second board on top. Press it. Quite often I stand on it, that helps too. And here's a corrugated sheet.
And these corrugations or ridges will just make the sheet much, much stronger when it's dry.
That's what they're there for, to make a much stronger sheet. Well, there's one use for the corrugated board, to make a hut like this one.
Well, I can see that's a good use for the paper, but who would want to live in a hut like this?
This is just a prototype, but there's a great need for building materials in Africa and other third world areas.
So I can only see one problem. In one tropical thunderstorm, they'll be up to their necks in pulpy paper.
That wouldn't be any good, but we've done a lot of work to develop waterproofing materials, and we've now got something which will make sure that this board is completely waterproof. In fact, we're so certain we can make something to prove it. The hull's completely made out of paper, and inside there are ribs at intervals to give it extra strength.
Are they made of paper as well?
They're made of paper.
To sea in a paper boat. Oh,
And the best of luck.
I don't think I need it. I feel very confident.
Good.
What a fool.
Off you go.
I'm floating. My feet aren't getting wet. I'm at sea, David, in a paper boat. It's great.
Safe journey, Malcolm. The idea of using layers of paper is also used in modern worktops. They're even called laminates. Now, this one is made up of 5 layers of stiff brown paper, a layer which takes the printing, and a special layer which protects the decorative finish. Then all the layers are dipped in a special resin, and when they're set hard and dried, then you get this laminate, which is strong, smooth, and decorative.
The idea of making layers of paper isn't new. Well, this tray is over 100 years old, and it's made from papier-mâché. That's paper, mixed with water and cooked until it's hard and dry. How are you getting on, Malcolm?
I'm just finishing setting the table, Lillian. We've got a paper cloth, paper plates, paper napkins, paper vase, and even paper flowers.
And here's some paper cups.
Paper squeakers. All we need's the food.
Here we are. Paper food.
Paper food?
It's rice paper. Special paper you can eat. Try some. Try it.
Oh, this is the stuff...